Why am I back here? In the Kingdom Hearts series, a level 1 run is a special type of challenge run known throughout the Kingdom Hearts community. It involves playing through the game at the hardest difficulty while turning on some version of EXP 0 to make sure that you don't gain any experience from defeating enemies. This has been a staple since Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, which has been the first game to do it. Since then, you see it in basically every game that follows. You see it in Birth by Sleep, you see it in Dream Drop Distance, they even added it in Kingdom Hearts 1 with the release of 1.5. You see it in Kingdom Hearts 0.2, and you see it in Kingdom Hearts 3. However, there is one game where level 1 is not present, Chain of Memories. Chain of Memories doesn't have an EXP 0, and you unfortunately need to fight enemies to progress through the worlds in ReCoM, and the bosses also drop experience. And unlike in the GBA version of Chain of Memories, where you could potentially miss out on a lot of experience that enemies drop, the remake version of Chain of Memories forces you to pick up all the experience that enemies drop. So for years, going through Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories was believed to be not even attemptable. However, times have changed. Ever since Kingdom Hearts was released on Epic Games and Steam, it opened up the possibility to install mods. These mods allow people to alter the gaming experience for the Kingdom Hearts franchise. And thanks to an amazing modder known as KSX, he developed a mod that disables all enemies from dropping any experience when defeated. When I saw this, I knew what needed to be done. The last time I played Chain of Memories, I restricted both Sora and Riku's run to make it as difficult as possible. For Sora, I did a run where I didn't change the starting deck, and for Riku, I restricted him to only doing regular attacks. But now I will be attempting to answer the question that I've had for years. Can you beat Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories at level 1? I know VG Mitts did a run similar to where they played the original Game Boy Advance version of Chain of Memories and invested all the level ups in a way to where it felt like a level 1 playthrough, but in this run we'll be looking at the HD remastered versions of Chain of Memories. So I'm basically acting like the developers just threw in 0 EXP as a switch in the game and I just turned it on. Let me just go over the rules really quick for this run. They are very simple. First, I must keep the mod on that disables all EXP gain throughout the entire run. The EXP disabling mod is also the only mod I am allowed to have on, as I am basically seeing if it's possible to beat the game with what the developers put in themselves without leveling up. All cards and slights are acceptable to use that I can get without leveling up. I need to get through every world and view the ending. 100%ing the game is not required. This run also means that my health will be stuck at 80 the entire run, my max CP or card points is at 275, and I am locked out of ever getting some of the game's best slights, including Sonic Blade, Ars Arcanum, and Lethal Frame. And with that, let's start this run. Can I beat Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories at level 1? What the hell have I gotten myself into? So starting off, the game puts you in Traverse Town, and while normally in a level 1 playthrough of any of the Kingdom Hearts games, I'd probably just skip most of the random Heartless encounters since they don't really do anything for me in the long run. I did make sure to spend some time finding a good number of them in Traverse Town, as I figured it'd be better for me to collect map cards here than possibly run out way later on in the game, which would certainly make things way more difficult. I made sure to try and get some more magic to use in the early bits of the run, since magic does provide damage early on before you can get stronger Keyblade cards. I also make sure I use at least one treasure room and one Moogle room in every world I get. When you open up a new Moogle room, the Moogle gives you 5 free attack cards, and I need to have as many cards to have as much variety as possible. And when you open up a treasure room in a new world, you often get new magic or slights, which these slights, besides the ones you get from bosses, are the only ones you can get in this run. After running into the Final Fantasy gang, I fought the guard armor. Really quick, I just want to define the 2 classifications of bosses in this run, as I'll be using their abbreviations most of the time. So first, there are DBs, or deck bosses. These are bosses that use a deck like you, for example, Axel, Vexen, and Larxene. And then you have RCBs, or random card bosses. These are bosses that act like the random Heartless you encounter, where they throw out a single random card of a random value. These are bosses like the Guard Armor, Jafar, and Oogie Boogie. Each will have their own unique challenges that I will get to later. But for now, Guard Armor didn't really give me too much trouble, as I was able to take care of him pretty easily. Right after that is my first DB. Axel. The first Axel fight is actually pretty easy. It's similar to the starting deck run, except now I have access to magic, so I put in some Blizzard cards in my deck to do decent damage against him. The next world I visited was Wonderland. Wonderland was kind of annoying since the enemies throw out high number cards frequently, and there was a part where I did have to face the card soldiers, but luckily Blizzard made fighting them a whole lot easier. After that, I fought the Trickmaster, and frankly, he was a cakewalk. The next world I went to was Olympus. The enemies here weren't nearly as bad as Wonderland. Cloud was my next fight, but Cloud was actually pretty easy as I could dodge his attacks no problem. So right after that, I actually fight Hades, and Hades does give me more trouble than anyone so far, so I had to be careful with the timing that's necessary to dodge all of his attacks. So after dealing with that, I move on to Agrabah, and I made sure to spend a lot of time here for two different reasons. One, the enemies are okay to deal with here, so I could stack up on map cards pretty easily, but also Aladdin's friend card is a really good way to farm Moogle points. I made my way to Jafar Genie, even though he is an RCB, which typically they are easier to deal with. He does have this eye laser move that will kill me in no time if I don't stop it. This is what makes every boss in this run a possible pain. It's their damage output and frequency of attacks, since remember, I only have a tiny bit of health throughout this whole run, so I can't afford to let a boss pummel me to buy some time for an opening later. The longer a fight goes on, the greater chance I'll lose. But I was eventually able to beat Jafar. Moving on to Monstro, I now have access to high jump, which makes evading enemy attacks much easier. I then fought the Parasite Cage, and the fight was alright. I just had to make sure not to step in the acid too much and use the gimmick cards as soon as possible, as soon as they became available. After that, I move on to Halloween Town, which did feature a lot of enemies that were definitely a major headache to me. I did kind of rush through the world and make my way to Oogie Boogie, who I was able to beat pretty easily due to how slow he attacks, so I could always break his card. During these world visits, I collected some cards, and I basically put out a standard layout for myself when it comes to my standard deck. So I put in a mix of different attack cards like Lady Luck, Pumpkinhead, and Kingdom Key, and put in a Blizzard card and a Cure card. I only really need one Cure card since it restores 50 of my 80 HP, so really it's fine. But now I'm facing a genuine challenge. The first Larxene fight. Even when using my knowledge of this Larxene fight, I still struggled greatly with her since I had not yet developed any sort of decent strat for bosses like her, so I just relied on breaking her cards often, and I threw in some blizzards and I cured when needed. I just took advantage of the fact that this was an early game boss who wouldn't be as intense. The fight was still a pain though, but I seemed to be okay, and Donald and Goofy were really a lot of Eventually, I was able to beat her, and now I got the second wave of Disney Worlds. So the next world I visited was 100 Acre Woods, which normally I would never go to right after the Larxene fight because of what comes right after, but I took a gamble since 100 Acre Woods does provide some slights and bonuses that could be possibly beneficial, so I took what I could from that world as soon as I could. The main thing that was in 100 Acre Woods that I just really wanted to get for myself was the Elixir card, which will reload all of my cards in my deck regardless of whether or not I use them in a slight, which makes dealing with longer, more challenging enemies a whole lot easier. Now I'm fighting someone who we all know would be a person that we absolutely dread every time we play Rechain, Riku Replica. I decided to approach the fight similar to how I did Larxene, but even then he was still giving me plenty of trouble. This is especially concerning when you consider that this is only the first out of 4 total fights. I had a lot of trouble with Riku spamming this red attack, as this red card makes him perform a 2-hit slash, and the second hit can leave you stunned, and in a run where I have less HP than normal, this absolutely has to be avoided. Eventually, I did develop a strategy with creating an opening for myself to use Cure or get hits. So if you remember during my last Chain of Memories run where I played as Riku and I fought against Riku Replica, I mentioned that if there is enough distance between you and him, he will make a jump towards you, which will leave him open. So it's possible here too with Sora in this arena, but it's a lot harder to do since the arena is a lot smaller, but it is possible to aggro him into doing it. So I was able to do that, and it allowed me to slowly recharge my cards and even get in a cure. With the help of some friend cards, I was able to beat him. So moving forward, I knew I would need to find a way to to make the Riku replica fights work, since he would only get more difficult from there, and eventually I would have to learn to deal with him without Dalton and Goofy. So next world I visited was Hollow Bastion. Normally I would see this world as a problem, but since I got more higher numbered cards, I took out a lot of the smaller cards, so dealing with the enemies wasn't really too bad. I actually went to the Room of Rewards to pick up the Mushu card, since I didn't know which summons in the game would be the most beneficial to me, so I made sure to grab as many as possible. Next, I challenged Dragon Maleficent, and I was able to take her down fairly easy. Now I'm fighting Riku Replica for the second time, and this fight once again gave me a ton of trouble, but eventually I found a way to shred his HP with the cards I had available. So the cards I needed included 1 attack card, 4 cloud cards, and 2 high item cards. I threw in a Mega Ether and the elixir that I got from 100 Acre Woods. The reason is because when you stack 3 clouds together, you get the Omni Slash Sleight, which damage output wise is the 5th strongest sleight in the game. I put 4 clouds there so that I can use Omni Slash once, reload my deck, and then use it again, and then the Ether and Elixir together would allow me to repeat that whole process twice, which grants me a total of 6 Omni Slashes. This deck that I tricked out, I'm gonna call the Omni Slash deck. This wasn't easy to pull off since Riku is basically the 3rd most aggressive 0 card user in the game, but eventually I was able to beat the guy. Next world I moved on to was Neverland, and while the enemies here were kind of annoying to deal with, I made sure to use a premium room to make all of my cloud cards premium to lower the cost of them. Since I'm only using clouds in a sleight, it's fine. I also put in a premium Kingdom Key as my only Keyblade card, since normally premium cards are gone the second you used it, but if it's the only card left in your deck, it will stay there. And so I'm using the benefit of its lower cost while it's staying as the only Keyblade in my deck to give me more room with other cards. For now, I put that on standby and use the Keyblade deck that I developed to fight Captain Hook. I progressed through the rest of the world as normal. Captain Hook was someone who has strong attacks, but they're pretty easy to dodge, or I used the mast on the ship to just block the attacks. So I was able to beat him pretty easily. The last Disney world to visit was Atlantica. Atlantica was actually the most annoying world to deal with because the enemy's attacks are strong enough to 2-shot me, and they also use high number cards, so they often break my cards, making it very difficult to fight them. I made my way to Ursula, and she actually gave me a really hard time because she attacks so frequently with her lightning strikes, and they do high damage. So I eventually found that being more aggressive prevents her from doing too much damage, and I will say this victory came out of left field, and it's thanks to Donald. Watch. Donald came in freaking clutch, and my mouth was actually agape when this happened. So now that I'm done with all the Disney World, it's straight organization fights. Starting with the first Vexen fight, since I already knew the timing for dealing with Vexen and dodging his attacks, the Keyblade deck actually came in really handy for me for this fight. I just made sure to consistently wait for him to throw out a card that I could break, since that's the best way to hit him without using fire, since he does have the shield that blocks most frontal attacks. Eventually the strategy did work against Vexen, and now I'm in Twilight Town, and the Twilight Town enemies were actually surprisingly easy to deal with, but this is mainly because the hardest that you deal with in Twilight Town are shadows, soldiers, and air soldiers. So moving on to the last Vexen fight, this fight gave me a lot of trouble since the normal Keyblade deck wouldn't cut it, and Vexen's shield blocks a lot of Cloud's frontal attacks, so the Omni Slash deck doesn't work either. So I was trying to figure out what to do, and then I remembered an old setup I used as a kid on the GBA version of Chain of Memories. On that version, as a kid, my deck had 1 attack card and 2 magic cards, and the rest were cure cards. This was, in my opinion, a really good way to dish out damage slowly while ensuring basic cards can't break me, since I have enough cures to heal me as well. I was doing pretty well with this. This deck as a kid actually helped me beat the first Marluxia fight. So I made an altered version of that where I have 1 Keyblade card and 2 fire cards to deal damage to him with Fire. I still needed to make sure I avoided getting too close, as if he did break my card, the combo attack he would follow up with could actually be deadly. Eventually I was able to use this strat to victory. Now I'm fighting Riku Replica for the 3rd time, and just like last time, I used use the Omni Slash deck. Riku throwing out zeros all the time definitely made things a whole lot harder, but I took advantage of openings I made, and I especially went out of my way to just be really aggressive with the Omni Slashes. And as soon as I saw Riku use the Shadow Heartless card, that was when I turned up the aggressiveness, because the Shadow card grants the ability to where it adds 1 to the value of every card that you use, meaning while I'm using Omni Slash, he can't break it with a 0 because it just turns into a 1. Eventually, I was able to beat Riku. Now, you have to be careful when moving forward past this point, because progressing past this point means that you won't have Donald and Goofy to help you out until after you beat Riku Replica for the last time. Once Sora leaves them, I actually did make my way to Agrabah to grind for some Moogle points. The reason I did this is because even though Donald and Goofy aren't with me here, I still have access to world-specific friend cards like Aladdin, who, like I said earlier, is really good for farming Moogle points. So I just use a mini ground and boom, I automatically start the fight with Aladdin and I'm farming Moogle points. I then make my way to Destiny Islands, and luckily the enemies weren't that hard to deal with, and neither was Darkseid since his attacks have such a lengthy windup. Now, I am handling Riku Replica for the last time, and unlike when I fought him with the starting deck, things are different now since I actually picked another Mega Ether so I could fit that in my deck to give me access to another round of Omni Slashes in the Omni Slash deck. I was able to beat him with not too much fuss. I thought everything was fine at this point, but then there's one person I kind of neglected to remember: the second Larxene fight. The second Larxene fight was one of the most difficult parts of this run. She is extremely fast, the most aggressive card player. She has 9 0 cards and is programmed to gun into those cards whenever a slide is being used, and she loves to spam her lightning moves.
Power! Lightning! Lightning! Lightning!
I tried everything with her. I tried the Keyblade deck, the GBA deck, the Omni Slash deck. I tried so many different card combinations. I legit didn't know if I could beat her, but then I remembered something. I picked up an extra cloud in Destiny Islands, so I chose to make that cloud a premium card so that I could have a 5th premium cloud card to have even more Omni Slashes in my deck. Because the problem was when I would use the Omni Slash deck, even when I was super successful with landing the Omni Slashes, I still had about 2 health bars left to deal with, and when Larxene is low on health, she really cranks up the aggressiveness, and she even uses her Slight Teleport Rush, which with my low health is basically a death sentence. So with the 3 possible Omni Slashes in my rotation and the item cards that I have, it actually gives me 9 Omni Slashes to work with. It took me a long while, and I do mean a long while. And there was even a point where her aggressiveness dialed up to like 10 notches and I thought I was gonna lose, but then Donald once again came in clutch. Now we're at endgame. So Cast Oblivion enemies were okay to deal with, as I just used the Omni Slash deck to not even worry about the Neo Shadows. I made sure to go get Super Glide from the Room of Rewards, as I thought that would help me a lot with the rest of the game. I made my way to fight the last Axel fight, and Axel was kind of challenging. I tried using the Keyblade deck, but that didn't work. But then I thought about something I could use. I used a variation of the GBA deck, but I made sure to include the Darkseid enemy card. Here's the thing. The Darkseid enemy card does cost 99 CP, which is a big ask when my limit is 275, but there was a huge benefit to having this. See, Darkseid's ability is to copy the opponent's enemy's card that's in play. So whenever Axel throws out his own enemy card, I can use it and copy his ability. The benefit is that while the boost of fire does mean nothing, since fire against Axel would only heal him, this does give me the quick recovery, meaning if Axel breaks my cards, I am not stun locked, so I am able to run away pretty quickly. And more importantly, I have total immunity to fire. Any attack Axel throws out that is fire-based will simply roll right off me. You could also use this against Larxene, but the problem with Larxene is that she likes to spam her attacks that aren't lightning-based often, and the effect only lasts for the amount of cards that you use. Meanwhile, with Axel, it lasts for how many times you get hit, meaning I just have to worry about dodging his only 2 physical attacks that are not fire-based, which are pretty easy to dodge, and I have an immunity to fire for the rest of the fight. So using the Darkseid card to copy Axel's ability and the GBA deck with the Kingdom Key and Blizzard, I slowly but surely dealt with Axel. Next is the first Marluxia fight, and unfortunately, none of my card combinations worked. He's too aggressive with the high numbers and 0, so the Keyblade deck doesn't work. The Omnislash deck doesn't do enough damage, and the GBA deck is too slow to make any sort of decent progress. So what do I do against the hardest DB in the game? I step back and watch a movie. No, seriously, there's a reason for this. The reason I did this is because if you watch the Days movie and view all of the chapters and secret reports, you get all of the extra bonuses for watching it available in Chain of Memories without having to beat the game. Meaning all of the organization cards of the members who didn't go to Castle Oblivion are there. So after watching the movie, I went back into Chain of Memories and went to Monstro and got the Zaldin card. So this strategy for dealing with Marluxia was inspired by Stickman Sham, but Zaldin's enemy card creates a wind barrier that is similar to the one that he used in Kingdom Hearts 2 or the one that Sora used in Kingdom Hearts 1. So long as I am behind an enemy, they won't attack me. That's kind of how the AI is programmed. So unless they are countering a card that you currently have in play, if you are behind them, they won't attack you because they have to face you in order to attack you. So I used the teleport sleight that I picked up from Neverland and turned on the Zaldin card and used a wind barrier to knock Marluxia into a corner, and
So you are a hero.
yeah, I basically stunned him with wind all the way to death. After that, I need to finish up the game by fighting Final Marluxia. Final Marluxia is honestly not too hard. I just used the Keyblade deck, and I did use a strategy that I developed for Final Marluxia when I used the starting deck. See, Marluxia's first phase during the final fight is easy enough to deal with. You can just break his cards and dodge all of his attacks. His second phase, or the final fight, is kind of okay until you get past a certain health point. Once you do, he starts using a couple different sleights that can be a little difficult to deal with. The Doom sleight is fine, and so is the Gale of Severance, and even the Circle Reject sleight. But one sleight that is super difficult to deal with, and I cannot afford to take damage to try and wait things out, is the Omni Laser. So what I did was I held on to 3 cards that had a value higher than what Omni Laser had, and I held on to it until I saw Marluxia use it, and that way my side would be in play and that would prevent him from hitting me with Omni Laser. With that, Final Marluxia was done and the run is complete. So it actually is possible to beat Kingdom Hearts ReChain of Memories at level 1 as Sora. This was an extremely difficult run, and I can only recommend it to players who know and love Chain of Memories and truly want a challenge. I'll probably do a level 1 run for Riku as well, but I really wanted to see if Sora was possible. Again, big shout out to KSX for developing the mod that made the run and this video even possible. Be sure to check out his channel and his server, which is full of different mods he has made for all of the Kingdom Hearts games on Steam and Epic. I'll leave a link to everything in the description below. Also, shout out to Stickman Sham for the wind barrier strat. Would not have been possible to beat Marluxia without it. But here's the endgame report screen just to show you guys right here. I would like to upload all of the successful attempts against all of the bosses. I just don't know where I should put it. If you guys have a place where I could upload it or recommend a place for me to upload it, because I would like to show you guys the successful attempts against all of these bosses. So just let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will make sure to get to uploading all of the fights at level 1 in Chain of Memories. But with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Twitter, my Twitch, and my Discord. This has been Noir Low Bomber, and I'm out.